I know they made a change, a kind of an existential leap into being rather than saying. And I think people couldn't handle that because people are so used to, in modern way of expression, everything seems like a satire, it's a put-on. People look like they're smiling and they don't mean it, but the surf poets meant it. I mean, when they started to live what they meant, I don't think people had the courage to support it.
You know, I thought the surf poets, when I first listened to them, were very, very deep. I thought they were commenting on the social issues of our time.
When you catch a wave, you tap into the energy of nature and you use it. You don't fight it. You flow with it and you create with it.
But I realized that as I listened more and more, that these were some profoundly shallow, middle-aged men who obviously had nothing better to do but hang ten, surfs up.
Well, Leslie and I met in the water surfing, and we were talking about music, and look out, here comes a wave. Oh, hey, I got a song I want to put to music.
It's bullshit. Bullshit.
This is my old electric guitar, bought in about 1965. South Philadelphia, 8th Street Music Store. I remember when I was starting a band called the Wipeouts. We were a surf band.
Stan Carew, I've known Stan since I was, you know, I don't know, I guess back in the mid-70s.
Well, there wasn't really a band when I came into it. It was Leslie had gotten together with Doug Barron, also a surfer.
And I think the other band members tried to put themselves in that neoprene feeling.
You know, it's not new kids on the beach, it's old guys, posers on the beach.
So one day we got together in the basement of a studio on Gottingen Street. We couldn't afford the studio, but you know, the guy who owned it would let us go down to the basement.
I don't really remember too much about the surf poets when they were first starting. They were using my basement. It wasn't good for much else. It was very mildewy, and I couldn't really use it for anything legitimate. So I actually don't remember too much about it because I was busy with some other real music projects at the time.
I did the spoken word because I was a lousy singer. I was always a lousy singer.
Hands on the rim of all possibility, I'm haunted home, barricaded on four sides by darkness, while up above the universe unhinged dazzles me like a rowdy all-night service station with check the oil slingshot eyes and how's the air in the tire politeness. I know this feeling, I know this comfortable bucket seat of longing, cause I've been harnessed here before, heading home. Pistons lighting up underneath the hood like nova stars, burning tips off spark plugs down inside the throat of my ambition.
It didn't mean anything, it was a road song.
The basis for a lot of the songs that the surf poets wrote and performed came from a surfing perspective.
So we're down in the basement the first time, and I met Leslie, and he had this idea he was working on for, had a poem called Beautiful Sadness.
I was always afraid of beautiful sadness because I believed she was friends with despair and misery. But now, driving on the empty Halifax street, I realize I want to know beautiful sadness. I'm only driving a small Czechoslovakian car, but I want to stop and open all the doors to the beautifully lost.
Profound? No.
In the early going, I think there were only 3 or 4 tunes that we were fooling around with, but it expanded beyond that, and then other people started to come in and play. Roland came in to play bass, and there was an interesting character to meet.
And he introduced me to Leslie Choice, and they tried me out for bassist, and as long as I didn't make too much noise or squawk, and they gave me my cigarette breaks, everything was going along fine.
And Roland would come down from his room at the specific time when it was time for him to go on stage, and he'd come down wearing a bad wig that he bought at the Salvation Army that afternoon.
I don't know if you could really describe it in, you know, in critical music terms. I sort of like to think about the space that it puts you in, which is, you know, automatically feeling good about yourself and life. Obviously, there's a lot to do with summer, although I've been known to listen to the music in the wintertime when I needed to pick me up.
You can't describe their music if it's not music. I would say white noise with a bass behind it.
A fellow named Stan Carew, who played in a also very famous band called the Wolverines, said, do you want to be a surf poet? And I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, I probably do want to be a surf poet. And so I became a surf poet.
I was driving an old Volvo wagon at the time.
When I was a surf poet, I was driving a Skoda.
I was driving a Volvo station wagon, 1979.
I had a '73 Dodge van with a piano strapped in it that I used to drive around in.
I don't remember any of them having cars whatsoever. Most of it was mass transit for those guys.
You know, of all the bands that stick in my mind as top 10 all-time, hate them the most, probably that would be the group. Yeah, probably the number one band that I really hated the most.
Well, how I got involved with the Surf Poets was there's a fella named Lassie Choice, obviously, and I was immediately like floored with the stuff. I was like, oh my God. And I was already doing a little bit of work with Doug at the time, and I said, Doug, if there's anything I can do to get on this record or help out in any way, I'll make coffee if I have to. In fact, if like, you know, if I can't even do that, I'd be interested in playing a triangle just to get my name on something that's so brilliant.
I think initially that we fooled a lot of people, and they thought, this stuff's great.
The song I like the most, let me see, the song I like the most, one that comes to mind is 12 Miles to Runaway Babe.
I'm probably not to blame if I lost all track of you and someone else arrived to take away all your pain and make the sacrifice.
Only one was a poet, supposedly.
Who made all the rules? Who changed the scenery, found reason in the night?
He never rhymed once in his poetry. Yoko Ono was a better musician than the Surf Poets.
A lot of tofu going around at the time.
Various people, I mean, some of them were almost eating grass as far as I could see.
I think Donaire was probably the staple of the band, especially when we were on the road. If we were doing a road trip, I mean, it was Tim Hortons, and then it was the Donaire shop. Tim Hortons, then the Donaire shop.
I used to like those deep-fried vegetable things, so I could fool myself that I was eating healthy.
The Surf Poets eating strange food, well, basically they would eat whatever they found.
This is their CD. I mean, that's not a band. That's a project funded by Mother.
I think they were going for whoever they could get. I think if they could convince a 3-year-old child into a supermarket where these things were displayed on a rack for $2.99, they'd have done so.
I would describe them as crap.
I think if they could have played this through a Muzak system in a mall, they would have done so. I think if they could have gone into all of the seniors' facilities in the world to sell these CDs, I think they would have done so. I think they were after everybody.